The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization Show, the home of Googleization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolf, and co-host Keith Campagna.
Hey, welcome back, everyone, to Googleization Nation and the Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization Show. We're excited you've decided to join us again. We know you've got a lot of choices, and we really appreciate you that you take the time to listen to Geeks, Geezers, and Googleization. You've heard us say a lot of times that it's certainly the subtitle of my book, When the Shift Hits Your Plan, and the Shift Hit Our Plan. Technology. So, hey, this is what we talk about, and sometimes you got to learn how to wing it. Our guest, hopefully, she'll be able to join us. And anyway, our guest is supposed to be, and hopefully we'll be able to get her on the line, as Arupa. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name, is Tesolin, and she's got a new book called Ting, or a book called Ting, and it's all about intuition. And it looks like Arupa might have joined us. Here, we finally got her on. Rupa, are you there?
Yes, here I am.
Okay,
yes,
finally.
technology.
Okay, so excellent. Okay, so it finally worked, and the shift hit our plan, and we figured it out, which is what we're here to do. We're trying to help everyone else figure their way through this VUCA world, which, if you're not familiar, haven't been listening for a long time, it's the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So anyway, to kind of get back on track here a little bit, we'll be right with you, Arupa. We'll bring you on. I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of an intro. I am sure, I'm sure today the show is going to be a lot of interest to a lot of people because some of the questions that I learned from reading Arupa's book and just doing a little research on her is a couple things stuck out. And basically, she asked a question somewhere along the line is if do you feel like you're spinning your wheels at work? Or just going through the motions. And I hear that all the time. I mean, disengagement's 70% of the workforce. People think they're going in to get a paycheck. That's a complaint from employers. People come in and just pick up the paycheck, don't do their work. So the employers feel like people are spinning their wheels. The workers feel like they're spinning their wheels. Creates, again, a lot of unhappiness, stress in our lives. Stress goes to some physical problems. On the other flip side of this, and again, this is, Keith, you're in my world. We're always talking about this, about technology, HR technology. It's driven by data. We talk a lot about metrics. You've got ROI. We're talking about how do you measure ROI on technology and other things. And today we're talking about intuition, which is really, if you said, hey, just go by your gut, and intuition's much more than just that. But be in touch with yourself. Think about that. Be aware of your surroundings and then go, hey, we got it covered. We got all the data that we need, and we got AI on our side. So we're going to be talking about where intuition fits in a data-driven world. So stick around. We've got an expert on the subject and the power of intuition.
And what's awesome about this topic is that it follows really nicely with last week's Heart Show.
Yeah, that was my next paragraph. You must be reading my notes.
It's like we've been doing this together. And really,
intuition.
Cool,
it's intuition, right? It's intuition.
Yeah, there you have it. It's Arupa has a fantastic perspective on what it takes to get work done. And what we're seeing out there is that, employees and employers are trying to bring in the soft skills. They're recognizing that it's not just a ones and zeros kind of a future of work, that you have to be able to bring in the soft skills. And to get the really good soft skills like creativity and collaboration, you have to figure out a way to get your employees to feel more comfortable about being there, right? And that is almost like the Captain Obvious statement of the year. But if you're more comfortable working, then you'll probably do more work. right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, again, it fits in so well with Mara and Stephen Klemick, who we talked to last week about heart styles, and their motto is living and leading with heart. So again, getting away a little bit, we'll certainly be back to the subject of technology and the future of work and everything. But where organizations are going, how do we keep the human in HR, the H in HR? How do we bring work balance back into play? These are all
work integration.
Yeah. True. I'll get that right. Right. I got the order right. I just got the last word, the integration missing part. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got this the course of the journey. I don't even say it's the course, but the journey of our podcast has only evolved. I'm not sure we would have come up with these topics when we first started to talk, or the guests. So pretty exciting. Before we go on, by the way, if you want to listen to the Heart Styles or Living and Leading with Heart, you can go up to any of your favorite podcast platforms. We're just about on everything you can think of. Or you can go to geeksgeezersgoogleization.com. We've got every show archived up there, and you can listen to that. But if you go to last week's show with the Klemicks on Heart Style, they did offer a free assessment. Heart Styles is actually an assessment, and finding out where you are with your empathy and growth and your humility. And it's really easy. It only takes a couple minutes, and they offered that free. So if you go up, you can make sure you take care of that. The link and the code are up there. Keith, I don't want to spend too much time here because I know we got a late start. But I was down in Montgomery, Bucks County this morning. Just got back minutes before the show, and had a presentation on your candidate experience is all effed up, which is the FCDD. Frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. Had a great group, and again, every time I go out and talk to people, I always learn new things from them. Get some great tips that they had, and I also get a little scared at the response. Some of the things that are being done just means that we still have a lot of work ahead of us.
Honestly, dude, it's crazy when you think about what's going on. I've been quasi out. I was certainly in the trenches when I was at JobVite, but so I've been quasi out of the trenches. And I recently spoke to a couple colleagues of mine inside, different CRMs, different recruitment software companies, vendors, and it doesn't sound like much is changing fast. There's this
Well, things are changing fast.
Not in HR.
The response in HR is just not as fast as it needs to be.
Well, yes, right, exactly. Yeah, and it's really wild. They're not even close to being there. Like they're still in. Like, I mean, would you say that they're the overall sentiment? I'm sure that there were very knowledgeable and progressive people there.
Good people.
But the overall sentiment, do you think that they're still way behind the curve, kind of behind the curve, or coming up to the curve?
Somewhere between way behind and kind of behind.
Yeah.
A couple did some really good things. But when we talked about, the path, the journey of a job seeker these days, how that's changed. When we talk about some of the technology, get the standard answers. Well, my boss didn't bring me in, but they just designed the website again. What was the conversation around your career site? Nothing or little. They had little input. Right. I always, that I always offer, have everybody go and text me right before, not text me, but text the platform I use to get the most updated version of the slides, and then to get entered into a contest, to win my new book. And so I've been doing that for 6 months, 8 months now. And today, I would say there's about 30, so maybe 30 people there. I would say that a third of them really had difficulty texting.
Okay, so
just the function of texting.
And and I'm gonna do it because I kind of get to do this now, being part of the startup at the ROI shop. But here's just a plug amongst plugs. The challenge that HR has is that if they don't know how to send a text, then they don't know how to build a business case to get technology.
Yeah.
And until they do that, it's just going to get that much worse.
Yeah, well, and to give, again, this will be the last comment that we're going to get Arupa on, because I really, really want to spend time with her, because I enjoyed her book immensely and learned a lot, things that I wasn't sure I was going to learn. Nice. Brought me new insight. But one of the things is I don't want to say they don't know how to text, because they certainly did. They all pulled out their smartphones. What happened is that they have a text to a number, so it wasn't pulling up a contact. Right. And the challenge is how do they get a contact into their smartphone? Or I've never texted a number before, because the name always comes up. So people somehow know how to do it by rote, by function. But then some of this really minor technical skills, get in the way. So there's little nuances to it, and I can talk to you about it all day, and to our listeners. So there's a lot of work to be done, and but we are, we're making progress. But the problem is making progress is much too slow compared to the rate of pace of how things are changing. So
just stay tuned to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization podcast. Listen to the sessions that we already have, all the topics that anyone in HR could possibly need to understand smart movement going forward with regards to technology, and like Arupa is going to share with us, individual development. I mean, it's pretty impressive.
We talk about upskilling, and it starts. It starts with what Arupa's going to be talking about. So, and one other thing, if you actually go to googlizationnation.com, that's googlizationnation.com. That's our community. It's free. All we need is a first name and an email address, and we will, be sending updates out about the podcast. Hope to be doing some webinars. I do at least one live stream a week, interviewing some people, most often different than what we have on Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization. And I've also, just Monday, we interviewed Karen Hayward, and we had a great talk. It was she talks about Stop the Random Acts of Marketing. That's her book, Stop the Random Acts of Marketing. And I think maybe that's the title of, maybe you and I need to write a book together called the Stop the Random Acts of Recruitment.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was fun. So if you go to googlizationnation.com, you'll get updates, and I try to send those out weekly of events that are coming up and happened. So let's get to Arupa. Really appreciate her calling in. We're out of the country again, this time in Canada. Last week we were in the UK. Arupa is CEO of a company called, love the name, Velocified. I think that's Velocified. And based on the description from the website, because she and I didn't get a whole lot of time to chat before, helps organizations improve their performance, accelerate results, reduce costs, time developing training. But I think this is really critical. Is how do you get, one of the things is onboarding people. You get a lot of people, they don't always have the skill. And her methodology, what she uses, and it'll be interesting to hear how intuition plays into that, is that you can get people accommodated to the job, comfortable in the job, performing well on the job, 30 to 50% faster with her methodology. So that's huge. That's huge, especially when people have a shortage of labor. So welcome to Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization, Arupa.
Thank you. I'm really excited and pumped to be talking about all this stuff.
Yes. So there's something, and just to show, I did read your book. You give, very early on, you give an analogy, and you talk about how you were sitting out in the backyard looking at I think it was a walnut tree. Was that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you were in a lounge chair looking at a walnut tree, looked up, and hadn't really paid attention. It was always there. And what you noticed is, I'm just going to read this paragraph because this actually stood out for me, that you finally started to see that some of the branches had died, yet there were new branches that were growing. And I think this is a really important concept because everybody thinks that you got to throw out, we got to stop everything that we've been doing in the past, and we have to do everything new in the future. And that's not the case, because what you wrote about, I began to realize that because the new growth was always so green and healthy, it didn't matter how old the tree was. It was always young where the new branches grew. I think that's huge. I mean, I think that's a great and talking about telling stories, bringing things to life, that was part of it. And this became an analogy for me about life and organizations. You always have to look for the new growth. Intuition definitely has a role in helping us find it and reminding us where to look for it. So let's talk about intuition. How, I brought up a couple examples, things, about, Keith starts to talk about something that I have written down. Was that luck, coincidence, or intuition? How did you get interested in this? How is this playing a role with the companies that you're helping?
Well, I have two companies. So Velocified is just a really good, it's just a really solid approach. So it's not so much intuition except for the way it's facilitated. What's intuitive about it is actually that the process is very intuitive, but it's not related to intuition per se, like the book. That's with my personal company, Intuita, that I do all my intuition works and workshops and things like that. So for me, it's a lifelong awareness for me. I was born pretty much awake and had the self-discipline I realize now in my life to always keep my eyes open and attuned to it. So it started a long time ago, and the book was written while I was trying to write. I had a New York agent, and he was trying to get me to write a book like Malcolm Gladwell. And I put forth a couple of pitches, and it just wasn't really resonating. And then one day, I just sort of saw this character and started to just intuitively, literally write from what I felt. And the book kind of wrote itself within a couple of weeks. Now, Ting, this is the second edition of it, and it just goes so much deeper. And it really fulfills the whole story. Ting is a story, so it's written as a story, so that people can go in and experience the narrative. But again, the whole process of writing this was completely intuitive too. I'd get words coming into my head or my feelings. I'd start writing, and then I wouldn't know until it actually felt complete, that there wasn't any more to come.
I can empathize, sympathize, and relate to that very much, having written a number of books and continuing to write articles and things. And sometimes you get in the zone, and sometimes it doesn't. But boy, when that hits, the words just sort of roll out.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah, it'll come. You got to practice. Right?
It's true.
You got 5 minutes a day.
It's true. You have to practice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of time, I mean, my instinct is when I hear intuitive or I hear intuition was more kind of an emotional reaction or this gut instinct. And, and people would say, hey, I don't need training. I just got this gut feeling. What can you, intuition's obviously much more sophisticated because I'm not sure you can learn a gut feeling. So help others understand that. Help me understand it as well.
Okay, so the classic definition of intuition is something that just sort of it shows up. It doesn't necessarily appear to be through a thought process. Although, sometimes you could be working on something and you've been deeply engaged in it and you don't have a solution, but later on the solution can come to you very intuitively, just sort of pops up out of the blue. It is a sophisticated sense. It's a primal sense. It is the first sense that we were born with, and is very, very much integrated to our emotionality, which would be our heart, our perceptual senses and everything else. But to the educated brain, and we all have educated brains in this sophisticated AI Googleization world that we live in, a lot of the times we're trying to wedge information through our thought processes, and it doesn't really necessarily fit. So intuition is sort of that clarity part. And in the way that we're so overeducated with our thoughts and everything else, there's a lot of bias and cognitive bias that we're not aware of, that's not necessarily intuition, but it can look a lot like intuition. So a clear intuition is someone who is really clearly connected to their feelings, their heart, and can trust it with reliability, can trust it with accuracy.
So there's a lot of conversation these days around emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Which is, again, there's a kind of different components to it, but one is self-awareness, which is certainly something that you emphasize in this. But self-awareness, then, self-management, it's the ability to manage those emotions, and then, managing, recognizing the emotions of others. And then helping manage those relationships, helping others manage their emotions. So, it sounds like intuition is a critical component, and maybe people should be spending more time on that than looking at emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. And I told you I was going to be poke a bear in the eyeball honest, right? So the fact with, when you look at emotional intelligence, the whole contextual agenda is a sanitized one. That we'll pick up the aspects, our sociological world of work will pick up the aspects of emotional intelligence that they feel politically safe with, that adds value to them, to sort of the corporate end, not necessarily the personal end, getting on well with others and all of that. But you start taking the walls off. You don't need a third party to tell you what's important. And we've all been socialized to be validated by third parties rather than becoming self-validated. And intuition resides in, lives in, and exists in this whole area of self-validation, which is us, who we are before we even go to work, before we even get socialized into the way capitalism works, what our role in it and everything is. So it's not politically correct. It's about who we are.
Right.
So and I talk a lot about curiosity. It's sort of been, I guess it was a hobby, and now it's become a passion of mine of trying to understand it. And like you're talking about intuition, and obviously in order to be intuitive or to learn to be more intuitive, you have to be curious, because you have to be curious about your surroundings and about the people that you're working with, and why they say yes or why they say no if you're in sales or business. So it seems like intuition and curiosity are the basic skills, life skills, that we should be helping people with, rather than, and I'm going to go back to my EI or the EQ, whichever term you want to use, emotional intelligence, is that the people go through training and they become self-aware. So they take an assessment and they learn who they are, and then they go, yeah, I feel better. And then they go through some coaching and mentoring, and they almost mechanically, they almost intellectually learn how to manage their emotions better, but they don't internalize it.
Because all of these things use an intellectualized approach. Like, we have to rig it up so that it fits our thought system, so that it fits the way we process intelligence, which is really aligned with what's popular right now. Materialism is really popular right now.
Mm-hmm. So it just seems that again, even the way a lot of the education, the learning, the mentoring, the coaching programs are set up is, as you said, they intellectualize it, but they don't help people internalize it, which is really what you're talking about.
That is exactly the crux of it, Ira. It is exactly it, to internalize it.
So when we come back,
that's a bigger set.
So we're going to take a quick break here. It's less than 2 minutes, so we're going to have everybody continue to kind of stay tuned to us. You are listening to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization show. We're with our guest, Arupa Tesolin. We are talking about the power and the transformative power of intuition. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about her book, Ting, Ting, what that means, what it is. I thought it was pretty clever. And we're also going to be talking about how you can learn to improve your intuition not just on an intellectual point. So we're going to take our quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions. So stay right where you are. We'll be back in less than 2 minutes.
Imagine how your company would grow if your candidate experience earned a 99% approval rating. Well, to get to 99%, you need the 3 best letters in recruitment technology, XOR. Zor's text bots, chat bots, and audio bots increased IKEA's candidate conversion rate 455%. Zor decreases candidate drop-off rates, improves your candidate experience, and collects analytics for future strategies. To learn more, check out Zor.ai. That's XOR.ai.
Hi everyone, this is Ira Wolf, author of Recruiting in the Age of Googlization. I'm excited to announce that my online course, Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter, is open for business. This course is the culmination of a 2-year-long project and releases recruiting tips I've learned after hundreds of hours of research, speaking with thousands of conference attendees, and interviews with dozens of experts. It's all available to you in Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. To receive more information or get started, visit our website at www.successperformancesolutions.com and click on the tab Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. Hey, welcome back everyone to the Geek Skeezers and Googlization Show. I'm your host, Ira Wolf. I'm here with Keith Campagna again, and our guest today is Arupa Tesolin. She has a book, Ting, and she is, I'm going to call her the expert on intuition. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but really she has a grasp of the subject and been doing it for, based on her bio, almost 25 years, kind of studying intuition. So we talked in the first part, Arupa, about, you wrote the book, Ting. You said this is in the second edition. Tell us what Ting is. I'm not going to give it away, but tell us what Ting happened to be. And then what I'd like to do is be able to give some hardcore examples of what people can do to learn this. And it's a similar process to what we talk about, that every human being was born with a high level of curiosity. And then somewhere around age 5 or 6, parents, teachers, and then eventually bosses screw it up. I use this acronym all the time. It's a good friend of ours, Diane Hamilton, who has the Curiosity Code, and she has an acronym of the 4 things that inhibit people from using their curiosity, and I think they all apply to intuition as well. It's called FATE, which is a great acronym. FATE. It's fear, assumptions, technology, and the environment. All get in the way. And when I was reading your book, I thought of, wow, fate also applies so much to that. So let's go back to what Ting means, and what people can do to sort of unscrew what their adult life did to their intuition.
That's perfectly right on. Well, Ting, the reason Ting is the title is I wanted to create a word that resembles being struck by an intuition, and we don't have a word for that. And Ting is, okay, I just got a ting, something just tinged me, because intuition can happen in a lot of different ways for different people. Sometimes it's sort of a heart sense. Sometimes it's a visual cue. Sometimes you just get a flash of insight. And, what are all those things? Well, just calling it a ting makes it really simple. And the title of the book is Ting, the Surprising Power of Intuition to Transform Work and Innovate. So I really want to tie in what that was all about. And it is, Ting is an experience. So yes, we will talk about tips and things like that, but different things will jump out for different people as they experience what the book is saying. And it's written as a novel, and it's written in the way that it will graduate you through a growth pattern, a growth path, to remember to start turning on your intuition and insight and being able to re-experience it. And I think that's really the power of the book, is that you can get a great experience from it, and magical things can happen. I've heard it. I've heard it often.
Hey, Ira, can I chime in here real quick?
Yeah.
I'm curious about something.
Sure, you're the co-host.
A big component of the challenge businesses have and organizations have has everything to do with millennials. And the challenge that millennials have is that they're, I'm going to use just a couple here, but there are more. They're in uncomfortable scenarios. They might not be getting engaged by their supervisor enough to feel comfortable. And they also might be trying to figure out what they want to do as a grown-up. And so I guess I'm saying they're pretty stressed. How could somebody out there who is trying to become more aware of positive attributes like intuition, what does that process look like when someone starts to recognize intuition?
Well, things will shift for them. Their experience will shift. Synchronicity will shift. And it really just starts with paying attention, having an inner commitment or an intention, a desire, really, to say, hey, I do want to feel and get better at intuition. You really, if you want that, you'll start noticing it a lot more. I mean, that's really if you are asking for a trigger, that's the trigger. What happens then? Be prepared for fuzziness to show you concrete ways that you've been missing. Things that are there, like better decisions that you could be making for your life, better choices you could be making for your work. All of the things that are things that we want to improve. Intuition and insight will give us a lot of that information.
I had to laugh a little bit to myself because we've had, we hear a lot about people with meditation and yoga, and that's been suggested to me, over time. And we had Pandit Dasa, who's actually a former monk. We heard him speak in Lehigh Valley just back in the fall. And he was one of our guests, and we talked about that. But I got to tell you, I mean, when I'm with people like Pandit, and they talk about meditating and just zone out for, and you even suggest this. I think this is your number one Ting suggestion, is zone out for like 5 minutes. Just close your eyes, think about the surrounding, listen to yourself breathing. 5 minutes seems like an eternity when you're not used to doing that.
Oh, yeah.
The rule is do nothing for 5 minutes. Well, tell somebody who's used to being busy and their thoughts are all over the place to do nothing. The hardest thing in the world.
Yeah, and I'll attest to that. I mean, anybody that knows me knows that 5 minutes of sitting still and not doing something is difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but with that, what I wanted to not to suggest to you, because you're the expert on it, but wanted to say this may be what may resonate with the listeners, is what I've noticed, rather than saying, hey, just close your eyes and breathe and listen to that, is look around, or listen to somebody saying, and look around and see what you missed. What was familiar in the past, but when you look deeper or you look at a different way or from a different angle, what did you miss? What's missing from your kind of familiar setting? And I found that sometimes you just, that's why I think you gave an example. What was your character's name?
Tony.
Tony. Yes. Yeah. Tony said, or maybe you said it in the book, you get the greatest ideas in the shower. It's when I'm in the shower or when I'm driving and I don't have a keyboard or my phone in my hand, or I'm not doing something, I get the greatest ideas.
Yeah.
Which is just a testament to what you're talking about. I mean, that's when it all comes together.
And there's something that has to be said here. At least I'm going to say it. This isn't magic elf stuff. This is neuroscience. This is what when most people have been staring up at the media and putting their valuable time in front of politics and all that fun-loving stuff. But what's been going on out there is that they're discovering this as actual habitual improvements that you can make. This is just as easy as, Ira, to your point, it's hard to stop for 5 minutes. Well, from somebody who in the last year or two really got into meditation in a big way, start with 1 minute. And believe me when I tell you, that is not an easy 1 minute. But once you have 1 minute, something starts to move you towards a minute and a half. And there's just a total relaxation. And ultimately, the brain activity slows down and you're out of that high beta, brainwave pattern. And before you know it, you feel more in touch with your inner being, which is, that's the intuition thing. There's a ting for you, right?
Yeah, exactly. But, and you're right, Keith, entirely. If you are thoughtfully intoxicated, which most of us are in this day and age, and not only that, like, what do we do first? Because there's 10 things we have to do. We want to do them all, and we end up doing, if we do one, and we're happy. But that's the reason that what the first rule is: do nothing for 5 minutes, because we actually have to prepare the person to stop everything before we can get them to take that 1 minute. They have to learn that first. Learn stop before you can learn go forward, inward.
Yep.
So let's talk. We've got just a few minutes here left in the show, and we want to talk about Ting. So for someone out there that gets it, they said, this message resonates. They'd like to improve, grow their intuition or rely on that or get in touch with themselves. Or as you gave, just to take this to a purely practical approach, your story is about a salesperson who's struggling to get clients to say yes, to move forward, to accept their call. Everybody's sort of interested, but they're not going forward with the projects, or they're cutting back on the projects. And your story, which is, by the way, is about 100 pages, is really, really, really easy to read. So I suggest everybody go do it. We'll tell you how to get the book and where to get it. But what where does this fit? What would be the first thing that you would tell someone to go out to basically improve their intuition?
Well,
other than buying your book, what's the number two thing? First, buy your book.
Other than buying my book, buy the book, because it's going to do wonders more than that, and it'll give you a path to doing it. But just stop and pay attention to be present. That would be the answer. Be present. Just be present in the moment.
I'll go back to how I started the show.
Everything is there. And if you can become clear in the moment, Ting is like, we start with a battlefield meditation. If you could be intuitive in the battlefield of life and know what you're all about and make the right decision and in all of that action that's going on, isn't that the whole point?
It very well could be. Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's interesting. We started the conversation today talking about how distant HR professionals seem to be as it relates to technology, with where they could be, and all the information is out there for them to learn. And here we're talking about the distance that many people unfortunately have between their intuition and what they go through every day.
Yeah. Well, actually, the distance it's about a foot and a little bit, depending on how tall you are. The shortest distance is the path between the heart and the mind, and that's the one that we have to really traverse if we want to get more intuitive, if we want to become more self-successful, and if we want to really turn on all of our lights. That is what we have to do.
Yep. Yeah. And get that ting, that feeling, right?
That ting.
Yep. And if you're in Jamaica, ting is a drink. So,
yep.
which does give you a ting. So how do people, I mean, it's fascinating and I highly recommend it. Again, this isn't, your book wasn't a typical book that I would pick up. Other than I really like books that are written as sort of novels, stories, not the traditional, kind of book. And it's a very easy read. I'll tell you how easy it is to read. Last night I went to the gym. I had started to read it and it was like, hey, I got to get more attuned with this and learn a little bit more about it so I can talk. And so I do the Stairmaster and I do it for about 45 minutes. And they put the book up and I put it on Kindle and I'm going to look through this real quickly. I read about 3/4 of the book while I was doing the Stairmaster. So not necessarily, I was focused on it, but it was like I actually ran extra minute. I actually climbed extra steps because I wanted to finish the end of the chapter. And so it's not only easy to read, but it captured my imagination. It captured my attention. So I highly recommend it. So it's Ting. It's available on Amazon. That's where I got it. So.
Yep.
Correct. How can people get a hold of you if they want to?
Yep, you can get a hold of me through my website, which is intuita.com, intuita.com, or at Velocified, which is really the work I do with HRs and organizations to make them better. But it's not about intuition. It's just about really having a really great solution. So either of the websites, you can always get a hold of me there, send a note through the contact form. That's the easiest way. And you can learn about there's a course that I have called Intuita Mindware. It's actually a process to get to intuition, to train yourself to be able to get intuition in the moment. And it's a really super process. So that is something I'd highly recommend too.
And you're super active on LinkedIn. So if you look up, Well, I don't know. You've been really good with me. That's how we've been communicating. So, and by the way, just if you look it up, if you look up the name, it's Arupa and Tesolin. So hey, thanks very much. This has been great. Appreciate you fighting through some of the technology issues to get you online in the beginning, but we did it, and it worked out great and a fabulous conversation. Thanks very much.
Thank you for the invite. It's great to meet you.
Thanks, Arupa.
Okay.
Sure. So Keith, there we are again.
Artificial and emotional intelligence. Here we go, right?
It's we keep talking about keeping the H in HR. We meet with people, good people, struggling to keep up with technology. But when we talk about all positions, more and more inclined to think that as we're talking about upskilling and growing and innovating and all the buzzwords that are put out there, at the root of it, I used to say it's curiosity. Now it's curiosity and intuition.
Yeah.
Real quick. Mindsets. I mean, really, we've got to become much better at learning about ourselves. A lot of work to do.
And what's really what excites me, Ira, is that you and I know the guests that are coming, and we have just more of technology impacting the way people's mental capabilities or at least performance and productivity could be, which is what impacts people's ability to feel better about their job. And we've got maybe the whole recession conversations are starting to come into play. So like the pieces on the board are starting to move, and we've got all of this combination of great ideas coming down on the calendar. Fantastic.
Yeah, next week we've got Kevin Grossman and
Jerry Crispin.
Jerry Crispin, yeah, for sure, from Career Crossroads and the Talent Board.
Yeah,
they're both Kevin is CEO, and they're both founding members of it, and as well as Jerry. So we'll be talking about that. So we'll come back to that. But these play a huge role in how we improve that. So we've wrapped up. We're just about the end of another Geeks Geezers Googleization. Don't forget, you can go listen to any of the old shows on geeksgeezersgoogleization.com or your favorite podcast. You can also go to googleizationnation.com, sign up. You'll get updates and announcements about things that just happened and things in the future, articles, and we'll continue to grow that. And we will be back, as we said, next week with Kevin Grossman and Jerry Crispin talking about candidate experience. And also we'll be talking with Jerry a lot about, he's passionate about the future of assessments. We really do appreciate you listening every week or whenever you listen. Let us know how we're doing, though. Please leave a review or up on any of your podcasts or contact us. You can contact both Keith and me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or the website. Thanks to Zor.ai and Success Performance Solution again for being our sponsors. Don't forget to join us next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, W4CY.com. And until the next episode of Geeks Geezers Googlization, this is Ira Wolf and Keith Campagna. Don't let the shift hit your plans.